This is the time of year that we need to be thinking about thinning. So thinning is important because I really like to have large fruit at harvest. I do not want to have fruit that's the size of a $50. That's just not very good for making an apple pie. It takes a lot more work, and fruit quality isn't as good. So I want a nice size apple. Also, thinning helps prevent biennial bearing or alternate year bearing. So if an apple or any type of fruit tree produces a lot in one year, it's going to say, man, I'm tired. I'm taking next year off. I did all my work last year and I need a recovery year. So thinning also helps prevent that biennial bearing. So we have a nice crop of fruit every year. So in these side pictures, you can kind of see we really want on apples and pears. All of my pictures are apples, but we want to thin to 1 fruit per cluster. So this picture on the bottom left really does kind of help show that. So you can see there's one larger apple and then smaller apples. It's not as obvious in some of these other clusters, but that bigger apple is called the king apple. So we want to remove everything but the king apple in order for those to have room to size up and be good. So we do this by hand. Basically, we're just taking those extras off, snapping them off. We leave the stem on the tree, but they should snap off fairly easily. And in a commercial situation, they actually use either a hormone or an insecticide for thinning is how they do it commercially. But in a home situation, doing it by hand is how we go about it. So that's kind of an example of apples and pears. Peaches and nectarines are very similar, except for in peaches in particular, because they are a soft fruit. We really want to make sure that they are spaced apart. We do not want that fruit to be touching, because when we think about something touching each other, it's a good spot for moisture to gather. And if we have moisture gathering there, particularly on a soft fruit like a peach or a nectarine, that is going to be a favorable environment for fruit rots to start. So ideally, we want them spaced 8 to 12 inches apart. However, on peaches and nectarines, if we do have a spring freeze, it can actually help us out a bit. So only 10% of the flowers need to set fruit for a full crop load. And once again, are thinning when it is small, so 1/2 inch in diameter. Thinning also helps prevent, as you can see at the top, breaking. That crop load was too heavy for those branches and they broke. And depending on where you are in the state too, we've had some pretty severe windstorms, and that also can lead to branch breaking. So we want to think about that when we're thinning. And there's a little home orchard I drive by every day on my way home from work. And I noticed he's already got some props out underneath some branches because he's concerned about some of these storms and providing some extra support for his crop load. And then just because some interesting things to think about in home fruit production, if you don't have a lot of space, I always get a few questions about this, and I've been seeing quite a bit lately, so I thought I'd share some images that I've taken over the years in different spots. And I'm probably not going to pronounce it correctly, espaliered trees. So this is popular with fruits, training them to be against a fence or a wall. The reality is, because they are flattened like this, they do need extra support. So you're seeing a fence or post behind a lot of these. But it's a great way to create a living fence, or to use apples or fruit trees in small spaces. So it's also another nice way that a lot of times we can get a little bit more airflow to our trees, so we have less disease problems. The bottom picture on the right was taken at Missouri Botanical Gardens, I believe, and you can see even there they have some problems with some fire blight, so they need to work on probably pruning some of that out. The apples look to have been thinned and might need a little bit more thinning. And so all of those examples are apples. But I just recently got back from a trip to Ireland to see some different horticulture there. And we saw a lot more apples espaliered. And even the picture against the brick wall is cherries, and they were actually loaded with cherries. So that was kind of an unusual one that I don't normally see. We see apples done this way a lot, but got to view cherries also. So those are some different options. And remember that now is that great time to thin out your fall harvest so you have good, nice size apples for eating and baking.